It's not new, but it's close to new. It really probably was less than 1,000 kilometers I did with it. Well, you can still see these marks. This is the tire that belongs to a set of tires I purchased in 2007. Once I returned back from the US with my Mazda Protege. This Mazda Protege I have purchased new. He had 20,000 miles on it, about 30-something thousand kilometers, if he did have that much. I'm not sure. But the tire that you see right here, which was one of the tires, from what I stated, was a set of tires I have purchased in 2007, was saved for me, according to the gentleman. I see really a gentleman. I'm thinking more and more gentleman, because this is actually a really strong proof right here. Who purchased the car from me, for me to have a proof about exactly what kind of tires were placed, actually should have been placed on the car during the car assassination plot, but were not. And that's exactly why I claimed it was a car assassination plot that took place. This is one of the proofs right here. In 2007, these tires, which I have purchased in Slovenia, these are brand new. They are not anything like this. It costs about 400 euros. They were made in Turkey with a Slovenian company known as Sava. That's where I had stocks, in this company Sava. I had these stocks in this company before '95. Before I left to America, I invested the money into this company. It triggered attention from the ex-communist party of Yugoslavia members. They weren't really communists, they were just really pro-Serbian fraction in Slovenia. Chetniks, basically. People that affiliate themselves rather with the enemy than with our country, but were even appointed, just like in Ukraine was this individual who gave the Crimea and Donetsk away. They appointed them in Slovenia as a president. The last of the people like this that was appointed just happened so, who was also involved in crime against me since 1995, still is a President Borut Pahor of Slovenia. Before him, upon the assassination of Ivan Kramberger, they appointed themselves Milan Kučan as a president of Slovenia. Interesting enough, a year and a half before attempted assassination of me, Borut Pahor burned his car. So that would look, this assassination would look more casual, more like normal, not like a plot. Something I was promised the case will be at this very location where it took place already since 1995. You see, not only I was brought inside of this company, Sava, Erdogan, Mr. President of Turkey, knows about my whereabouts with Sava. Not only my whereabouts, but he also knows about Milan Kucan's whereabouts. He knows about Borut Pahor, myself, whereabouts in respect to this company Sava. Because it was through me they invested the money into Turkey. Behind the doors of this company Sava, I was threatened to be murdered by Milan Kucan God knows how many times. Behind the doors, inside a factory, on their factory premises. Behind the factory, Zoran Jankovic was present. And in this place called Hell, if translated from Slovenian word Pekel. Pekel is location near city Trebnje. Pekel. Hell. I was brought, I'm not going to say 20 or 30, I just say 25 times since 95. Walked along the edge of the road, right next to the precipice. That's how it goes, the road. The road, and then on this side, on the right side, if heading from direction I was returning myself, you have a precipice, you have a deep cut down valley, going steep down. If you skid off the road there, you are dead, most likely. Guaranteed I was that this place, in fact, this hell, it's called Hell, Paco. It's an ugly place, it's a dark forest. It will be a place, location of my death since 1995. And make no mistake, when I was returning that evening in 2007, with what I thought would be these tires here, tires with which I did travel once to Austria, Ljubljana, in search for work. Were in fact replaced with the tires which had absolutely no profile. They had no profile, they had a profile something like this. The road itself, so the guilt for the crime, why this took place, this assassination, the reason was the tires which were mounted instead of this here, tires without profile. We're talking about the old, completely worn out tires, and the road that was greased with oil, as if you would paint one with a fucking oil. And so on that evening, when I was returning back from the fishing, I did go to cool my nerves because I couldn't find a job. I was really in a bad state of mind, thinking what to do, where to go, back to the US or what to do. That's where I returned from in 2006. I really didn't know what the fuck to do. I head back home, and as I was driving back home in the evening, that is true, in the evening the road was a little bit wet. It was an evening that I don't know how you say rosa, but you know, the water from grass from everywhere. In the evening, you have this fog and stuff like this. It was not foggy or anything like this, but it's always humid there. Might have contributed to whatever other factor I have just stated. Most likely oil, grease with the oil road, to the degree that once I started to drive home, I realized that my tires are not gaining traction really when I accelerated. It was just, it was just, zzz, you know, strange. But it's probably because you have some part of the road or something like this that just, what I'm talking about right now is going straight up the hill. Its location is Ribnik Blato. Ribnik means a pond, a fishing pond with the name Blato. That's where you go to fish carps. But to go back to Novo Mesto from there, you have to go up the hill. So it was really strange that as I would go up the hill, the car would just not behave normally. But never mind, I keep driving, and I feel that car is not really uh, properly, that it's like dancing like sideways, really strange. Then all of a sudden, I'm traveling about 50 kilometers an hour. I realize that I'm actually completely without any control of the car, because as I drive, given that this is the road, let's say here, this one here, this line here, the car goes this way like this, and as it travels like this, you know, you have to steer the wheel toward your right to correct this thing, and then again back. And what people don't know in this case, you have to actually accelerate enough for tires to gain the traction when you do this, so that you can go like this and like this, and so that you can correct your course of traveling. This is something that saved my life, and it's something I learned in the school of driving in Miami, thanks to this old man, this American. He was the one who drilled me probably 1,000 times inside of that school. Key Power Institute, that was for the heavy trucks. So I did the trucking job prior to my return from the US, and as much as I hated one, I never wanted to be. I wanted to be a police officer. I wanted to proceed career in law enforcement. It actually saved my life. That man repeated me that whenever you lose the traction with a car, as a matter of fact, truck driving, you don't squeeze the brakes. You don't only correct that with the steering wheel, but you also accelerate the car, therefore a truck, for the tires to gain the traction so that you continue to travel the same direction you want. Or you can just skid off the road and kill yourself. That's what the ice trackers can tell you. That's what professional truck drivers can tell you. That's what professional drivers can tell you how it's done. Well, I did this, what I stated right now, at least twice I did, avoiding 100% fatality. I ended up at least twice, and it might have been 3 times, who knows, coming to the edge as close as centimeters away from this edge, avoiding skidding myself over, falling down maybe 50, maybe 100 meters down into this brezno, like we say in Slovenian language, trees. So what I was promised, in case I would stay alive, they will finish me. It didn't come to me that time when I was doing the driving, but I was told, I was promised during MK Ultra, if you're not going to kill yourself somehow, we're going to come and finish you right there off. And I traveled like this about 300 meters, and I couldn't stop the car. Pardon me, I couldn't slow down the car for about 350 more yards. It was a horror that haunted me ever since. A seconds felt like minutes long. And as much as I had my blood rushed in my brain, I understood that and this was not an incident. And I understood that if I somehow manage to survive, this here is all you need to understand that somebody's trying to whack you. It's hard when you see stuff like this actually happening, but it's all you need in your life to understand what the fuck goes on. The car, I did somehow slow down one just before the main curve. I brought the car all the way to about 10 miles an hour. That's about 15 kilometers an hour. Maybe even 10 kilometers an hour. I don't know. The point is that the car kept going. As soon as you would squeeze slightly, you would apply brake, the car would just start. It was definitely more than twice. It was impossible. It was impossible to stop, to slow down this car. This second's the longest in my life. Finished after I realized that through the next curve, and I didn't know the road, but I said to myself, when the next curve comes, even with the 10 miles an hour, you're not going to drive through this. You're not going to make it. And so it came to about 10 miles an hour. I think it was about miles an hour. On my realizing, definitely 3 times avoided that edge on the right side, definitely, because I was traumatized. I was heavily traumatized. I prayed God that somehow would get away with it alive. I wheeled, I turned my wheel as much as I possibly could to the left. Once I have avoided the right edge, straight at the car, and I was going like back in, back toward left, which was the safe bank, and slammed the brake once I got the car going basically like this into this direction rather than this direction, or rather than like going like this direction. Right, so I felt that going this direction is okay, just wheel this thing. And what I did was I turned myself like this twice, which I hoped it's going to happen, that it's going to additionally slow the car just by car turning around. The tires are going to create more pressure on a pavement. It's going to gain more traction. It's going to slow down the car. And boy, somehow I managed to stop the car on the left bank, on the left side of this. Okay, this is the road, on the safe side of this road. Car stopped, engine stopped. Stepped out of the car, I look at the car was somewhat okay, more than not, with a tire blown apart. That's the only damage that it visually appeared. I didn't see much other damage. Of course there was other damage, but not so much of it. On what I decided to try, the car would only start, because this was in the evening hours. And if the car would only start, and it did, I said to myself, hallelujah, I just started the car. I felt so weird, like never before in my life. And I just drove right toward the center of the city of the Trebne. But that first curve that I stated earlier, I would never manage to get by. There was an ambulance vehicle that was already parked right there. You have a house and you have a actually ambulance vehicle, and then it was a house. And here it was an ambulance vehicle, yellow ambulance, fully ambulance vehicle, which type of ambulance vehicles later on started to stalk me throughout the Novo Mesto city. And I wrote this on my blog, that they would have an ambulance vehicle just driving behind me everywhere the fuck I would go. And so I went past that ambulance vehicle and went to the first, once I saw the lights in the city, first parking lot, like in the fucking movie. Stopped the car, opened the trunk, pulled one of my tires out, and mounted that tire in place of tire that was, well, it should have been a tire like this, blown up, but it was not. It was instead the tire that had absolutely no fucking profile whatsoever. Nothing. Flat. Zip, without any fucking profile. In the moment I saw this, that trauma I had have taken me completely over. I was thinking about several things. One of the things was about my being jobless, despite looking for the job everywhere. Second thing, going to police would have a very, very bad impact on me due to what I have just stated. And secondary, even worse, they could have given me even a penalty. And third, they could have, if nothing would be issued, increase me insurance premium, because in Slovenia you have a special rating. It's called bonus. Without the bonus, your insurance rates are incredibly high. And I had no bonus because I was in the US. And by reporting the accident, it would be even worse. In this case, we have assassination plot. Going with all this shit through my mind, I didn't know what the hell to do. The idea about going back to the US was becoming to me more and more understandable. Just as I was driving along this edge, and I doubted that I actually see before my eyes my entire life roll. And so I left. Once I replaced the tire, I left to the Novo Mesto. Interesting, the traction while driving on the road, and I drove reasonably. I didn't drive with the same speed because the car was pulling on the side, there was certain damage done to the car, to the frame probably. However, I have not felt any kinds of stuff I did earlier when I had that tire on that portion of the road covered with the grease, with the oil. I didn't have any of that stuff. I arrived home completely normally, reached home at almost about 10 o'clock, probably 15 minutes to 2200 hours, between 2130 to 2200 hours, with a neighbor physician doctor involved in MK Ultra since 95, coming from the city, just as he would follow me, came right, no, I came before him. I parked the car, step out of the car, and go about to park my car inside of the garage, and I had Igor Kotar, the neighbor, that came from the city at night, on a visit, on a casual visit. Basically, he came to see what the fuck is going on with me. That's a physician, that's a doctor. That same evening, I headed back to the place of incident with my father, whom I have demonstrated just how greasy the oil was, the road was. I demonstrated him by simply using Snickers, running shoes, going like this and skidding on the road, just as it would be ice, let's say, like this. And I would just skid on the road all the way to the end. So you say about 1, 2, maybe 3 meters like this. So the road was completely covered with the oil. That's what I did because the tag, the license tag, had fallen off the car. It appears it did, struck one somewhere and torn one away from a license plate from the frame. So we had to come back to pick that thing up. Father, at my surprise, stated that he doesn't see nothing oily, nothing greasy. Yeah, with probably semi-normal tires, you wouldn't feel anything on the road. But with the tires that were placed on my car that night, actually not that night, but before that, I did understood what the hell this shit was all about. The rest is already written on the blog, everything. That same night they entered my room. It was the Andrei Uhl who played with the tires. It's everything written on the blog exactly the way it should be written. They replaced the tire, they went ahead, they put other tires on, and then they took the tires off again, because I remember Uhl saying it was the politicians Kuchan, Yankovic, Pahor, especially Pahor, Golobic, that took complete control over the situation. Absolutely everything. They mounted already new tires on, and he was told not. And he said, I can clearly remember this, and then what the fuck he said. They couldn't do it, new tires yet, because they had to go back, destroy one of the tires, which this owner told me that on the car there was one tire that was completely destroyed and 3 tires that were good. 2 tires that were good he placed in the back of the car. 1 tire that was good is this one. The 3rd tire that was completely destroyed, that one was wasted. And they had to destroy that tire that supposedly was wasted and drive back to the city of the Novomesto, so they would have exactly replicated they were asking me, where did I change the tire? Did you change the tire here and this and that? Drugged up when they brought me to the city of Trebne. So what I'm telling you right now, that was the case of MK Ultra. That was the real stuff. It didn't give me any kind of proof. It almost got killed me. And they gave a tremendous alibi to Milan Kucan, to Borut Pahor, which they wanted to get rid of me badly. Prince Andrew was banned from MK Ultra for about a year. They guaranteed me, Angela Merkel guaranteed me, he'll never come back again. But he did find his way back through the business people involved, by demanding from the business people to involve him back in the circle. And before you know, he found himself again at the negotiation tables, causing me more problems. But I wouldn't blame everything on him, because he was always just used for whatever others wanted to do. But just wouldn't come as evident about who they were as much as he did, because he was just like always like a black sheep that they used in case it would be necessary to assume responsibility for something that would go wrong that would involve royal family. Talking about the Windsors here, Battenbergers, British Buckingham Palace, Queen Elizabeth. Made in Turkey, Mr. Erdogan told me, made in Turkey, and he was very happy when I purchased these tires. These were really top of the line tires. I gotta really thank this gentleman that he was kind enough to preserve the original tire so that you can see what kind of tire this is. The rest was just a Mazda Protege manual transmission with 115 horsepower sedan, the year 2003. That's all there was. Speed 50 kilometers an hour translates to about 35 miles an hour. Really, really, really slow. But that just goes the distance that demonstrates how greasy, how oily the road was. So that's all I have to say in respect to this car assassination plot, which was very, very, very real as anything possibly could be. People that knew about this incident involved even the psychiatrist Tatiana Prokshir. She even knew about this tire. Oh, the instructions were don't even dare, don't even think about that kind of stuff. So there's nothing else for me to say. Toen is on Nalite Gume. Nalite Gume means refurbished or something tires. These are brand new tires I purchased. Brand new tires. So that's all I gotta say. You can see the date and time.